Jody's gonna join us, but she's not officially there. She's not a member. She's gonna. There we go. So as soon as she comes on, if you want, you can call
Call to order. Oh, she's here.
Oh, yeah, I'm here. I can join my questions.
Make sure the chat show. There we go. Hi, Lauren. So it sounds like you can hear us okay, Laura, just can't speak to us. Okay, cool. All right, well, we just got the webinar chat up so we can see you. And with that, we have a quorum, so I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order at 5:07. According to the time on the computer. Do you know of any public comments today, Doug?
I did, none came in and nobody asked to speak.
Okay. All right. Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes? Okay, somebody, good, Lauren, good job, Lauren. Lauren, do you have any edits or suggested changes to the minutes? All right, Lauren moves to approve the minutes.
I second.
Carl seconds. Okay, great, we're all good. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the agenda items. Charity, are you ready to chat about, you had reached out to some businesses about the art walk. Will you give us an update on that?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so I just I reached out to just a few of the restaurants in town, like that I thought would be appropriate, like as far as space fit for, say, an art connection type of what we're going to do in the spring if we do something. And I reached out to, I think, 4 or 5. 2 responded said yes. That would be neat. We'd like to know more about it. So I think honestly it would be fun to do, as far as not, just reaching out to business that we think would be a good fit. I think Melanie, the last thing said, yeah, this wouldn't be for everybody. It definitely would be something that we could offer, but would be nice for some that we know that would be a nice fit. So they were interested, but that's about as far as it went. As far as I honestly don't know any. I said if some might be, if they were selling their art, we would not be responsible for that. We would help facilitate. And my thought was, for if there was an artist who wanted to sell their art, that and they both seemed like they didn't really care about it being a commission or anything like that. They was more just displaying local art. Was they liked the idea of that, supporting the art as local artists in the area, and they would contact, like, through our email, the Arts and Culture Commission email, for us to put them in, whoever, if they were interested, then we could put them in contact with the artist if they were interested in purchasing, say, a piece of art. But that was just as far as it really got. So as long as there is interest, that if we did something in the spring, that we would have the businesses that would want to participate.
Charity, how did you decide on which businesses you were reaching out to? Was it just places you were kind of going to anyway and you thought, hey, I'll ask them? Or was there some kind of, I don't know, I guess, what was your approach? How did you know who to reach out to?
Well, I mean, I know the restaurants on, say, Old Willamette, and there's definitely ones that would be appropriate, right? Like a nice fit, such as Aliyam, 503, 1933, even the Ale House. But other ones like Jay Willie's, Little Cooper's Town, I did reach out to them because I know the owner at Jay Willie's. I knew he wouldn't be interested. It's just not a good fit for them, in my opinion. But again, just rolling it out to get a feel for it. I reached out to a few of the nicer restaurants that I felt like might be interested. Obviously, if we were to offer this, it would go to all of them. So it would be obviously equitable. Everyone would have an opportunity if they wanted to. But I just wanted to get a feel for ones that I thought would be a nice fit for the Art Connection program, if they would be interested in doing it. So I just kind of went off of what my gut feeling was of what would be a good fit and reached out to some of the businesses.
I see. Thank you for explaining that.
Sure.
Well, any other comments about it? I feel personally just a little bit stuck as to where to go next on this. So I'm not really sure quite how to facilitate the conversation or where to go next. This is a new endeavor for me to be a part of. So I kind of want to reiterate something I thought of in the last time we met, that while I love and support this idea in general, I don't know if it's the perfect thing for our group to do. And that's why I added to the agenda that maybe we could work with some of our city funds that are kind of ours to talk about and recommend the city council do something with. That maybe there are resources we could give to businesses to make it easier for them to display art, like buy some hardware, and maybe do some connections to artists. But I, just having gone through the art show and talking, the bandwidth of the group, and I'm not really sure that it's in the charter of the group, the purview that the city council gave us to do this. They wanted us to be advisory. So I don't know, I'm feeling a little bit stuck on it. I'm perfectly willing to have my opinion moved the other direction, but I'm not sure what to say or do next. I know it says in the minutes that if we're going to do this in the spring, that we probably need a January 31st commitment from venues that would be able to display art, which I agree is probably a really great timeline, because that gives us time gives whoever's doing this a chance to figure out who's doing it and move forward with them. So I'm not trying to rain on your parade, Charity, because I do think it's a wonderful thing. I'd love to see more art displayed in local businesses, but I can't seem to get over this hurdle.
You have another idea to make it more easy or cohesive for doing something else?
Well, I'm really not trying to shut down the idea. I'm looking for what we do next, and I'm not sure I'm the right.
Talk to Jody.
Yeah, Jody.
Jody, what do you think of this? We did present this. They did present this to Rebecca and Shatrine last time.
I was here last time. Rebecca wasn't here. And because I'm the liaison to the Main Street, and we talked about it at our meeting. And, we think it's a fine idea, but we aren't into doing it until the springtime, because it's going to be a lot of work. And our thinking really was maybe start out with doing it in one of the commercial areas or two, not try to do it citywide. That felt like a huge lift to do it citywide. I know that Shatrine had really advocated, trying to make sure we did it citywide. And I think that long range, that would be a good plan, but maybe rotate it, maybe start with one area and do it, and then another. But I think, we thought that, that concept had some merit, but just, we don't have a lot of ability to provide volunteer help with it at this point in time. So it might be something to, partner with the chamber and Main Street, like next year sometime, try to figure out a time frame that would work where we could sort of do it along with some other event that we're planning or trying to find people to be engaged in. And I think, in terms of your charter, since I'm not part of this committee, I think that, one of the things most arts commissions do is sometimes support sort of art shows or places or venues for artists in the community to show their art. So I think that is a good concept. And it may be, something that we would support. Is just timing wise.
Okay. Jody, working with those other groups, like what's a good timeline? You're talking about maybe, like you're feeling like your group doesn't have the bandwidth to go with this maybe for this spring, but maybe for next year. Is
Well,
that
sometime in the spring or next year. I mean, we tend to have events every month of some kind, and some of them take a lot more effort. And obviously the farmers market is a big one. And of course this winter, our winter market is a big one. So I think trying to do it sort of early enough in the spring so that it doesn't sort of conflict with us getting the market going, or doing it after the market is done later on. This year, it would have been fun to sort of pair that with the wine walk when we did the wine walk, because that's something where people are going around all the different businesses to try wine. Well, if people have their art in the same business as they're visiting for the wine walk, that could be a really cool partnership. And that's something where it would naturally pair if you're going around to a business and saying, gee, do you want to have a wine vendor here? Or do you want to have somebody with, because we had vendors in addition to the people who were selling wine or tasting wine. Do you want a vendor? Do you want an artist to display their art at your business? That would be something that would make a lot easier for us to help out with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
And honestly, like what you were just saying, is that I don't think we're going to get a big response like 10 right out of the gate. So I'm thinking maybe 3 tops would maybe 3 or 4 maybe would respond and say that they would want to do like an art display, hang the art for a month, whatever the time frame that is agreed upon, just to see how it goes. I love the idea of pairing it with the wine walk. That's really a cool idea. Or even if you don't feel like the bandwidth, and part of it, I think if you're worried about having like the bandwidth of like having help, that's when you ask the community to come and volunteer and help. Like this is a volunteer day to come and help do this. I mean, it doesn't have to all be on our shoulders. I do that with the schools all the time. I send out and say, I need 10 volunteers today to help out, and I get 10 volunteers. So, I feel like if we wanted to do it, it's not going to be I don't think it's going to be a big group. It's not going to be every business. I don't think it's as geared for every business. And I do feel if we don't want to do it, if it's too much, if it's still too overwhelming, maybe we do something that's it could be just a fun art show in the back of the ale house with the artists there, where they can talk to people, similar to what they do for the farmers market. But it could be, go see the artist in the back, it's a great space. I know Anne there would be very open to having artists back there with their art, and people coming back there to come see their art and whatnot. It could be something that we just put later, right?
That's a great idea. Yeah. That's a great idea. I mean, I think that maybe Anne would really be up for that.
Yeah, I think
Or-
I would love to do something like that, just supporting the arts. You go back there and come, go to the Willamette Garage, something to eat, go visit your artist. One's back there painting right now. Like, I think it could be paired easily during farmers market, where that's another nice area and thing to do, because people love going back there and sitting in the back garden, So,
I want to interrupt for a second because Lauren, I don't know if you guys can read what we're reading on the screen, and I want to make sure her voice is heard. It says, I want to ensure we bring equitable in our selections for restaurants. We're carving out specific places. We just need to ensure we have clear, transparent criteria for making the choices. That's from Lauren via the chat. And can you, or Jody, I guess it would just be you. Can you see that chat?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, all right. Okay, I know Charity's driving, so I'm hoping you don't see that chat.
no, I'm not looking at it. So thanks for reading. No, I'm still in traffic.
As a city advisory group, community advisory group, I'm worried about, and to Lauren's point about it being in a private space, like, art displays in a restaurant, even though it's open to the public, is still a private space. And there's an expectation when you go into that space that you're gonna be able to buy something, or, pay for a service. So, like, I do like this idea a lot, but I'm worried about
So
what our role should be in this.
all right, there may be some clarification that I can't talk to you about right now. It's not really public, but I would be able to come back with you probably in January with probably a solution that will work out. That would be city property and would be a nice potential venue for it. That's all I'll really say about it. But I think that it would answer all these questions and also be a place where it could happen. The question would be, it would probably have to be over a short period of time, like a weekend.
Right.
Or our weekend evening or summer evenings or something, but it couldn't be like a month-long thing where we're talking about. So,
Okay.
but there's a lot of moving parts with it. Everything will become more in focus I can guarantee you by January I can speak about it. This may cover all these areas.
Thank you for that info, Jed.
On the topic of like tying this to certain events in town, like I know we have the old time fair every summer, so maybe that's something like we can kind of quarantine off a portion of the Willamette Park or like along the stretch of road where the farmers market happens, like kind of, and then that would be over a Friday through Sunday period, and people can come, kind of like the art walk in Lake Oswego, where it's just like a bunch of booths of artists. We don't need to necessarily be as particular about like which, like businesses don't have to decide which artists they want to have. Like we can be more inclusive of a variety of artists, and then they can sell their art too. And yeah.
I wonder if a better role for us in this art walk idea is that we could maybe do some kind of call for artists that are interested in being connected to Westland restaurants, and maybe we can be a coordinator of communication between artists and restaurants and support.
Yeah, I love that idea. I think that's a great idea. Like we just could be if we just put it out there and yeah, like we say, like I was like, oh, I'm interested in the arts I'd love to support a local artist. Let's see what they have. I think it's a great way to be like a connection. I think that's great.
Yeah, and then as a commission, if we're able to, access some of those cities' funds, in addition to like connecting artists with venues in the area, maybe we can also say, here's stuff to help you hang it. And
Yeah, I would think offering some technical assistance would be a good role, because a lot of restaurants may be interested, artists may be interested, but they've never done an exhibit. They don't really have the supplies. They don't know how to set it up. Maybe the Arts Commission's role would be more of that, sort of negotiating that and helping get the arts, hung or displayed at the restaurants.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
I
that
think
would help us as a commission be more aware of who the artists are in the area. I mean, I know just anecdotally, a lot of folks know who they are. But then, you know, we're becoming more of a hub for community
Yeah,
efforts in the area.
Again, I
so
think
yeah,
Lauren wrote here, city property or the McLean House would be great. So making sure that.
Thank you, Doug. I'll
Yeah.
try to be better
No,
at
that's okay.
sharing Lauren's voice in the meeting. Lauren, what are you thinking about us being more of a liaison between artists and venues and a communication hub? Exactly. She said, Charity, she says that seems good as long as we have the capacity.
yeah,
Cool. Okay, so I'm happy to talk about this more, but I feel like we're at a point where we need more information. Doug hinted that he might have some more exciting news for us in January, which should we take this or table this until then?
yeah. I really like where it's heading. It's definitely, you know, it takes a lot of time to really figure out the kinks. So I think it's great. I love the solution of we are a liaison. We have the resources. We can have that out there, and we could also do something, you know, partner with farmers market in summer to do like a thing for at the back, like we said, like something that's an easy thing where you have to call the artist, like if you want to be in, display your art in the back of the ale house, not have to have a booth full time, right?
Right.
Here's your opportunity, or do something. Just we could be that facilitator, which is great. I think this is it's moving in the right direction, which I think is neat.
Cool. Okay, so we can of course talk about if we just, I was wondering if we're gonna actually meet in December, but
Certainly in January.
certainly in January,
Yeah.
so yeah, maybe add some more pieces to the puzzle in December if we want to talk about it again, but we'll really let's hold ourselves accountable to make some decisions in January.
Sounds good.
Great. Okay, that took care of 2 agenda items. Charity, you want to talk about your youth art program idea?
Can you remind me what it's?
It says in the
Like, what did I put on there?
Charity, I can probably talk about it since I have.
Okay.
information. So this was Charity's idea of having a project where our youth art program, you know, maybe working with some of the art teachers at schools and also with the children at the schools. And I think I mentioned last time that the most effective way for this to happen is to have the school involved, even if it's just in the promotional side of it. And the only way we're going to get that is we have parity with Wilsonville because it's a joint 2-city school district. So I have talked with the library director at Wilsonville, and she's very open to it. And she suggested that we potentially have a joint meeting in the future with their Arts and Culture Commission.
Okay.
And so both our libraries are already in as a space. So we have space already in both communities. So that's a really big thing. I think that's good. Whenever we were potentially going to do or how it's going to lay out. And I think it might be nice if we were to have a joint meeting with them, and we could even do it, you know, a Zoom meeting with them. So we don't necessarily everybody has to go to one place. And then maybe talk about it collectively with them and also with their staff liaison, which is their Parks and Rec director, but Shasta Sasser can also, she's the library director, she can participate as well.
Awesome. Well, and so we would also, Doug, I'll ask your advice on this. Do you think it's better we kind of do some planning just with the libraries first before we present anything to the school district?
Yeah, I think it makes sense to do that. I think it also makes sense to, if it's coming from both Arts and Culture Commissions, and they're in their infancy as well, or just getting started as well. So they're not, they're not, you know, long and tenured like
They
like
won't
the
laugh
street
at
or
us.
other places, right? So they, what I'm saying is they're looking, I hear they're looking for things to do, so
Okay.
I think collaboratively it would be great to meet with them, see where they're at, and suggest this, and then if you have both cities on board, and you have a place for it to happen, I really think that we will have momentum.
Do we, if we have a planning meeting like that, is that something that has to be a public meeting? Or can we just have a?
I have to get back to you on it. I tend to say it does need to be a public meeting, but I can check on that.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it has to be on our usual, like, would it have to?
No,
be
no, no,
during
as
one
long
of
as
our
we, as long as we
usual
notice
meetings,
it, as long as we notice it correctly, it can be anytime. Let's
Okay.
see.
Enjoy this.
Oh, hi, Joy, welcome to the meeting. We're glad you're here. Lauren's communicating just via the chat, so you're welcome to do that too, if that's more convenient for you.
Hey, Doug, can I ask a question? I can't hear because I'm going. Now I'm going like a normal speed. Would that be able to possibly like help do like an artist in residence for the school?
Okay, so that's a, yeah, I don't know that, I know they do have an artist in classrooms. I don't know if they have art, I don't know what they call it in the schools. So I think that I can reach out to them and find that out. I kind of wanted to make sure that this was going to be, you know, something that's going forward, and then I can start to gather some information from the school district.
Yeah, so at the Trillium, we would do an artist in residence every year, and the PTA would fund it.
Okay,
Because that's the only way they could afford to do it, right? Was that we would pay for it. So I was just curious if we could help offset costs to the schools, like saying, as sponsored by the Arts and Culture Commission, you know, help offset costs, right? For if we did that. So I know
I can, yeah, I can certainly talk to the city about it, like the finance, Lauren, for help about if that's appropriate use of funds. Do you know roughly what your PTA would raise for the artists in residence? So we would kind of have an idea of cost.
Oh my gosh, it's been a few years, but I can look on some of the old treasury reports. I know that, I can't remember off the top of my head. There's a few $1,000s. I do know that. So,
Yeah,
but I don't know how much. I
residence.
want to say between $5,000 and $7,000 for like whatever the artist in residence was doing,
So if
the
you,
program for like
yeah.
that first.
so for parity, it would have to be all the primary schools at least, if you're doing
Right.
primary schools, and that's both.
Yeah.
Both people would have to decide that they
Let-
want.
Yeah, let me double check. I can double check and see. Cause there was the artist in residence program that we would do, and then we would do like, the artist project program. And that was more just paying for supplies, like helping pay for supplies for the entire school to do it. Such as doing the Starry Night Van Gogh. We talk about Van Gogh, and all the kids got to paint the Van Gogh Starry Night, right? So, and the trainers trained the trainers to do it for the classroom, and we would help offset costs just for supplies. So there was two different ones, but I can find out what the budgets were. I just, good years, did that.
Well, even if I don't necessarily think we need to know exactly how much an artist in residence costs, but we could offer, I don't know if the city would let us do like kind of a grant to schools, like open up a grant.
No, I think, you know, these are really good questions. I don't want to say that they can't. It seems like it has a pathway for it to happen. Because I do know that some of these, the percentage for the arts can be used for lots of different things. It's not just an installation. It can be
Right.
for festivals, if you will, or other things. And the culture part of that
Sure.
fits into that realm. So I'm not saying it can't happen. I just don't want to say for sure it can, because I don't know. But I will definitely ask about that and
Okay.
see, because you do have some, let me just see here, there is quite a bit of funding there, the city there that you have that hasn't been used.
And it could be cool if we were able to gift some money to school programs who are working with an artist in residence, and maybe part of the criteria for being selected would be that it somehow is their product of what they create is shared in the community.
For like their processes.
Yeah, so the artists in residence would come in, and one of the things, if you go to Trillium to the school, if you go to the outside playground in the back, one of the artists in residence, the entire mural on that wall that's underneath where the basketball underneath like covered play area is, that was one of the artists in residence. It's really cool looking. So it's, you know, it's like a community piece. Another one I think is in the gym. That is like they did a whole graffiti wall of like this artist who does certain graffiti words, and it was all like very positive, hope, love, give, all these really cool things. So it was all they would come in to do these things. These kids get to paint like a piece or learn about it, and it became part of the school, right? So doing through the community or something like this is a neat. I also need idea. So the kids would take home the ones we did that was obviously there that they got the painting class. The other ones became part of the school, like art on campus, which is really neat.
Yeah, and in my mind, that qualifies as public art. You just walk by and you see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think,
kids loved it. They loved it. It was really a fun program.
I'll explore the options. I thought I had the numbers, but I don't. But I can explore, and I think, I also think it's a good time to consider in January potentially bringing Lauren back here to the group, talk about what you actually have, talk about what might be appropriate.
Yeah.
Because I know it's broken down into, percentage for the arts, for transportation, for parks, and for city facilities or bond funded facilities. So how each can be used, I think would be great to have a refresher course on that.
That'd be awesome.
And
'cause
then we
we're
might have,
excited to spend it.
yeah. Right, exactly. So,
But we want to do it right and responsibly. So.
right, and so I think, the more information you have, the better you can make decisions.
Lauren says, I have some background knowledge about that, and it was very expensive. The cost was shared between the PTA and one major donor family. Yeah, an artist in residence is usually there, multiple touch points, and there's a lot of working individually with small groups, big groups, and then putting the full piece together, whatever it is.
Right,
So,
the
yeah.
challenge is gonna be, and I'll just say this, the challenge is gonna be the parity piece with the school district, and that's if we decide we want to do it and we want the school district to be involved in participating in some way, even if it's advertising or promotion or even funding, which it has to be, having dealt with this in the past, it has to be something that's for everybody. And so if you go look at that's why I think another joint meeting with the Arts and Culture Commission, you could find out right away if that's something that they would want to participate in, right? And they have their funds too, right? So maybe you say, okay, we'll use our funds for Wilsonville kids, and we'll use for the Westland kids, schools, inside our city boundaries, and we'll figure out the rest and go for it that way. But I think that if you want to do this across it with the schools, I'm saying with their blessing, but with their, it makes it so much easier if they're participating in some way. Otherwise, we're going to miss a lot of kids. It was something we deal with every day here. So, we have a good relationship with them, but there's also because there's a good relationship with the other library. So all the kids are getting the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. I really like this. Okay, so the next steps on this sounds like Doug's going to help us coordinate a time when we can meet with the Westland Arts and Culture Commission and help us learn if that needs to be a public meeting or not. So we can coordinate. Any other discussion on this? So probably we'll say this for our January meeting as well. It's just getting into that time of year when we don't anticipate a lot getting done by community groups, because everybody is pretty tied to their families at this point. Okay. Next agenda item. Cultural events. Charity, you put this one on here. You want to talk about what you're thinking?
Sure. Well, I just thought of it because of one of my friends. It was just Diwali, and she showed up at my door with gifts and in her beautiful sari, and it's her culture. She's from India, and they do that as the Festival of Lights. And as the Art and Culture Commission, I'm like, we should maybe start looking at what we could do for different cultures in our community to educate people about them or have celebrate those, right? So it was just an idea that I wanted to put on there and hear thoughts about that. Because I loved it. The Festival of Lights, which is an Indian tradition, is a beautiful tradition, and I just thought that we need to have some kind of program where we had it like what we just had, where like what was it, November 1st, the Dia de los Muertos, which is the honoring Day of the Dead, which a lot of cultures do, Latino cultures, and to honor those, and as far as like supporting that or like saying, hey, even on the website, it's Dia de los Muertos, and this is what this means, and this is why we celebrate this. Just something like that, because it's in our title. So it just made me think that maybe we should look at those things more closely.
Jody raised her hand, it looks like.
Let's read Lauren's.
Yeah.
The Parks Department has some mechanism by which people can apply to teach different classes at the Adult Community Center. I wonder if we could look at that to see if people want to share about their culture. And Joy says, here, here.
I actually have something on that if you want.
Yeah, please.
This just came together in the last day with the high schools, both high schools. We're having a Diwali celebration here Friday from 4 to 5:30,
Wow.
which is going to be lanterns, coloring, and it's rangoli and henna and lantern making and coloring. And we also are going to have, they also got food to be brought in. So if anyone wants to participate in that, that's just literally came together today with the high schools. So it's going to be here. So we actually are having Diwali celebration in West Lynn with the
Oh,
two.
wow, great.
So it just went out on all the social medias in our city website in the last hour, but because it just came together. So
So with Doug, I can't hear very well. When is that again?
it's 4 to 5:30 on Friday, this Friday.
Okay.
It'll be in the community.
Joy wrote in the chat that she's taught at 2 schools, Wood and Rosemont. Joy, what did you teach there?
Well, I have guest spoke at 2 of my friends have invited me. The first class was my daughter's class. I talked about ancient civilizations. So I talked about Great Zimbabwe as one of the ancient civilizations and talked about how Zimbabwe at that time was the center of trade between, from the Indian Ocean up the way to Cairo. So that was one of the classes that I taught. So I've done a few presentations for my friends for their elementary school classes. I was just saying that to say that's something that I would really love to do, like just share about my culture and the culture of the people that live in West Lynn.
Thank you, Joy. Let's see. Lauren says, I think the Historical Society used to have historical talks too. Could be a good model.
Art from different cultures.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Sure. Again, I'm worried about us being the host of events as a very small volunteer team, and also not sure it's really quite the role that the city council had in mind for us. But what could we do to maybe help promote cultural events, educate about cultural events? That's kind of where my head goes in this area. Could we make educational videos? Like, one of the things that I'm not sure about is what other cultures are in West Lynn.
Yeah, That's a very good question. And I think for the people that want to showcase their cultures, they might take ownership for it. So for example, if I wanted to do something for West Africa or Southern Africa, I definitely, if I volunteer for it, then I would hope that I am also responsible for finding the people power to do it.
Right.
So yeah.
So I do know that there's a couple of, and this is one of the goals that's gonna be for this, that we're having in the library, but in what community services too. And that's kind of looking at things from a targeted universalism perspective, and that is, looking at a goal, and have the goal, and how that works is, then you say, okay, how do we get to this goal and who's getting at this goal? So let's just say it was 8th grade math, right? Proficiency, 100% proficiency in 8th grade math. You went, you looked at the statistics and you saw that 60% of them were matching it. So 60% of the children are doing what needed and have the resource that they have. So then you have to figure out, why does the other 40% not getting it, right? And how do you then target what their needs are, to figure out what their needs are, so the overreaching goal is achieved. I think this is the same kind of process that you have to do here, like Joy has talked about, and that is, we have to get into the communities to figure out where they are. One of the great things that I know, at least this was 3 years ago before the pandemic, we had 17 different languages spoken in Westland Wilsonville School District. So we got that from the school district. So 17 different languages were spoken at home, and English was their second language. So that can tell you a lot about some of the cultures that might be available, and knowing of all those, who they are. But then where are they, right? And how do we reach them? And then do they want, when you go to them, it's also like, hey, well, you want to promote what you are all about? And some people are really happy to do that, and others are like, no, I don't want to. Why are you asking me to do that? So I think there's lots of levels to get to that. But if we want to be an arts and culture commission, or if you want to be an arts and culture commission, I think we have to look at those things in where's the audience we're reaching, what's the audience we want to reach, and then say, if we're reaching it this way, how do we target the rest of them so that they're all are having that same ability that the ones that are already there have. And that's a challenging step-by-step process to try to figure out what that is.
Let's see. Lauren said the Westland Alliance also is doing some of this kind of stuff. Could be a partner for a conversation.
Jody's had her hand up for a while.
Oh, Jody, sorry. Go for it.
I really wanted to bring up a different issue, so I was patiently waiting, and because we moved into this topic. I just had something to bring to have you think about for the future, not related to the whole discussion around the different cultural presentations, but the Main Street group is looking at, and there is footings being put in to the street at some point in time when we do the 10th Street project, when the city starts the project where there's going to be a roundabout and traffic changes on Willamette Falls Drive and 10th Street. We have put in a request to have an arch. And obviously an arch, I think, probably should have some input in terms of the design from the Arts Commission. So just for a future agenda or future discussion in terms of how you might want to be involved, because I'm assuming that that would qualify to use funds from the 5%, the amount for the arts, but since it is a city project and city, the funds are being used to do the traffic changes there. So just not related to this discussion you've been having, but something just to keep in mind in the future, that we will be wanting to look at an arch design. And there's all sorts of cool examples all over that you can find, that some of them are very neat, can be just put one up in their Main Street. So.
Okay. Cool, thank you. Sorry it took me so long to call on you.
That's okay. I raised my hand before we got into this last discussion, and so didn't want to interrupt that.
Joy agrees that would be awesome and worth the wait. You are worth the wait, Jody. Yeah, the Westland Alliance, going back to our discussion about cultural events and education, the Westland Alliance could definitely be a good partner for conversations as we move forward in this. They might have a better handle on the cultures in the area and who's taking the lead on some of that stuff. We wouldn't want to step on their toes. I'm definitely aware of the Westland Alliance, but I'm not sure who I would reach out to. So I'd have to do some investigating there to see who the contacts are. So maybe they would be, we could push them into February since we kind of got some stuff cooking for January. Start talking about stuff on February.
Just to input in the Willamette Falls and Landings Heritage Area Coalition is really trying to look at doing some projects to celebrate the roles of different peoples that have settled in this area that have been, their stories have been underrepresented. So there may be some opportunity to do some kind of a joint exhibit at some point in the future, maybe at a historic city hall around some of those folks. I mean, the role of the Chinese in building the locks, and there was a lot of you know, other Hawaiian, other folks, Native people that were involved in that. There's a lot of other underrepresented history that we really want to start to celebrate, and it may be an opportunity to do some kind of a joint exhibit for, you know, some folks in the community that have an interest in presenting sort of current kinds of what people are doing currently and what historically has happened in the area.
Jody, is there any, are there any like books or publications about those kinds of things, about the Chinese helping to build the locks and the tribes and the fishing areas? And
There's some, you know, the old Oregon, I mean, the library that was donated that will be at City Hall has some reference materials, but there's also a couple of people who've done some pretty extensive research in Lake Oswego, for example. Susanna Kuo has written a book about the Chinese laborers that were involved in the iron furnace, and there's a fellow in Oregon City that's done a lot of research. So there are particular people who've done research and written up some articles and, you know, little brochures, and we're starting to explore how to do that and incorporate into some of our materials and our programs and our heritage trail. So that, you know, at some point in the future, it may be worth, you know, sort of doing what's sort of currently going on in the community and what historically has gone on.
it'd be really neat to share that in a way that for modern eyes in our social media brains, you know, maybe snippets of TikTok or something will help educate the world about. Anyways,
There's a new video that was just done by the End of the Oregon Trail and by the Grand Ronde tribe on the history of the Grand Ronde tribe in this area that's now being shown at the End of the Oregon Trail. So I mean, that's a wonderful, wonderful film, but it doesn't get, I mean, it's not here in this community, but it talks about the people who settled here in this area. And so there's plenty of places where we can partner. I mean, the Grand Ronde provided funding for that video and some of the consultation around making it and helping produce it. So if you ever want to take on some kind of a large project around the Native American history in this area, there's obviously good support from the Grand Ronde and some of the other tribes as well.
I wonder if we have sort of different roles about culture in the area between the two groups, the Historical Society and the Arts and Culture Commission. Like historical societies seem like, this is the way it was, this is the way it evolved. And maybe our role can kind of grow into, this is who's here now.
Right. No, I think we do have different roles. I'm just saying.
I'm really interested in what you're saying. That's really cool.
Do some partnerships around that.
Yeah. I don't know, I just had that epiphany in my
Yeah.
brain.
Yeah, I'm kind of sharing different communities, expressions of art and music and, yeah. Like that. There's some more comments.
Oh, yeah, Lauren said she was in contact with the Westland Alliance a couple of years ago. And yes, I appreciate if you shared that contact info, Lauren, that'd be great.
And also Joyce said-
Rotary.
Oh, and Joy says we could maybe reach out to the Rotary and do peace polls.
We're doing, actually, the Rotary is doing a peace poll here at the library.
Oh, cool.
We're there. It's already been, we're still deciding the place it's gonna be, but it's gonna be, there's gonna be.
Lovely. Okay, anything else on cultural events? Great, okay. Then it's time to move to board comments. Any board comments? Carl's shaking his head. Lauren, you got two quick things. We're ready for your quick things. I like Doug's comment earlier about narrowing down our audience as a commission, maybe add to the agenda for February. Great. And dot, dot, dot. A kernel of an idea I've been noodling, maybe could be tied in with an event or show. We could have people paint rocks to have around town. The ACC could provide rocks, paintbrushes, etc. A way to spread art across the city. Maybe an idea for next spring too. Yeah, that's cool.
We did that in the library last 2 summers ago, I think. The first summer of COVID, it was called Kindness Rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
And then they were
some kids
placing-
in our neighborhood that do that right now, yeah. Or at least did it.
Lauren shared a link to her inspiration from scarymommy.com. And I would say not narrowly based on a book, but maybe just inspired by the city. Cool. Thanks, Lauren. She says, that's all. I have a comment. I'm wondering if we want to go forward with our December meeting. We should decide that now. I'm okay with it if y'all want to do it, but I know a lot of other folks are. Lauren's peacing out. She's not available December. Charity, how about you?
I'm fine if we just move to January.
Carl?
I don't have anything on my schedule, so should be able to.
I say we call it off for December.
Thank you.
Okay, so now you have extra time to call in. So that means we'll have a full agenda for January and keep talking about what sounds like we might get a visit from someone from the city to talk to us about budget and spending and how we do that responsibly. Talk more about potentially doing some work with the Wilsonville Arts and Culture Commission. And Doug wrote it all down, so hopefully he did a better job than you did.
Well, I'm sure I missed a few things. This is not my forte. You guys can make some edits if you need to.
We
I'm trying
will.
to capture that.
Not to worry, we will. Any other comments before we adjourn? Can we maybe move our meetings to the second Wednesday? January will be the 4th, and that just seems very close to New Year's. I'm fine if not. Carl, what's your jury duty schedule?
Hopefully not that long.
I would be okay with the early the first Wednesday. Personally, I'd like to stay consistent.
Yeah.
Shoot, they want the second Wednesday.
She says she's fine if we don't, so,
Oh, I see. Okay.
yeah, she's just noticing it's close to
Yeah.
the new year. Charity, any opinion on that one?
Did you say moving? I can't hear what the date was, the second January? Second
Uh,
Wednesday?
Yeah, Lauren's wondering if the second Wednesday would be better in January because it's so close to the new year.
I don't think that's a problem.
Okay, let's
Or-
stick with first Wednesday then.
Yeah.
That would be the 11th, right?
Well, are you saying you're okay with sticking with the fourth?
Oh, I don't care.
Okay, then let's stick with the fourth, just so we stay consistent.
Okay.
All right, and with that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
All right, take care, you all.
Thanks, Jody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.